All right, so this is a great time to continue my Mbsr training. So let's take a look at where I left off. All right, and for those new to the channel, this is a tech channel. So you can see basically all of my past videos were related to tech somehow. And there's a lot of people out there, some that are more sophisticated than others in their knowledge of tech. I claim to be an experienced technology professional. I think there's a lot of evidence to support that claim. We can see I've attempted the JPR 961, which is the expert level Juniper service provider exam. And I have a lot of experience working on service provider networks, a lot of experience with Python and automation. So I'm definitely an experienced technology professional. Am I a top level expert guru? Well, how could I be? I started my career in 2015, going back to community college. So I'm about 9 years in. There's an argument that I'm about 10 years in if you include my supplemental instructor work where I helped students study. So I had my CCNA since about 2016. So I've been CCNA certified for about I got my CCNA certification in school. So I've been CCNA certified for 9 years. And then I held the CCNP for most of those years that elapsed. I think in like 2022, and then I held Juniper certifications as well. And really, there's kind of no like if you're still not convinced that I'm kind of a networking person, you can see the work I've done in my home lab here. So yeah, that's me. Python. I have a GitHub. I have some projects on there. I wrote a tool to look at Python, or sorry, I wrote a tool written in Python to analyze juggling patterns. So there's a few other jugglers that did that. They're all computer science PhDs. I just did this on my own. I found a great tutorial online, Adrian Rosenbrock. And I wrote this that gets the data back. So that's took some pretty sophisticated Python. I wrote, I guess, the other one that I kind of talk about a lot to demonstrate skills in Python is Austin events today. So I wrote something I can pull up on my phone that that reorders the events on this website, because we can see if we go to this website. We can see that they're out of order once it loads. Oh yeah, so this is 8 p.m. right? So it's like, well, what can I go to at well, let's say that it's 7 p.m. So, let's say that it's 7:30 now, and you're like, oh, I'm just not into this. Oh, but this looks great. I've been wanting to see this. Well, it's not in order, so the next one you see, it's already elapsed. And then as you scroll down, none of those look interesting to me. I guess I'll go with this one here. This looks really interesting. Well, that's at 6:30, so you can see, you want this to be chronological. So, depending on what the time is, you can see what's available to you to go to. Basically, you don't want to see any event that has already occurred, because you can't go back in time and attend that event. So that's where this code comes from. I wrote it for so it can be used on a phone, and so I use a beautiful soup. I use the request module. I go in, screen scrape, reorder everything, and we can see it's just a concise 77 lines. I have to use this bottle here to run it on the phone. So that just adds a few more lines, about 10 more lines. And I can pull it up on my phone. So when I'm ever out with friends, just due to this small amount of code that I wrote myself, I can say, hey, in 10 minutes, there's one of these shows. Like, here's all our options. If we want to go and do something, here's all our options. That's a really powerful thing to do. So this I kind of prop up, even though it's only 77 lines of code. It solves a very clear problem, the problem of not knowing what shows are available to go to based on the current time. And then it's not a object oriented design. It's more procedural programming, but it's a nice concise version of that. So I feel like this is a decent demonstration. And then I have that professional experience as well, which unfortunately I can't just pull up and show because that is all NDA work that belongs to the business. But yeah, so that's kind of my main things that I show. I have more to show to that, and I could talk about my professional experience outside of I can't. So I can talk about non-specific things about PyATS, for example, frameworks that I've used. Network, the modern network development life cycle that was talked about in Automate Your Network. So I've read books on this, DevOps. I've read the Phoenix project. So I can definitely talk shop on that stuff. So I don't know why I'm bringing this up. It's way off topic. I guess I'm just feeling kind of insecure this morning. So yeah, these two I think demonstrate my ability to write code pretty well. Now they're not object oriented, massively collaborative projects like for a business, but just the nature of my career so far, that would probably be NDA. I wouldn't really need to be able to pin that up on a YouTube channel like this. And I do volunteer for the Agile Learning Institute. So if it's really critical that there's code that I've written that's part of a larger thing, I don't have a PR pulled into that yet, but I am doing peer reviews of the PRs that are there. So I can definitely talk about those. So yeah, I'm not sure why I'm bringing that up. I guess I'm feeling insecure this morning for some reason. So let's get back on topic here. I think sometimes it's nice just to say who I am, especially now that I'm 43 videos. So it's about these are pretty much per day. So I'm about a month into this series. So if anyone's kind of new to this channel, for the past month, you've seen me, doing woo-woo meditation stuff, and might kind of not understand really what this channel is actually about. I will be getting back to this the hard technical stuff soon. It's just in talking to ChatGPT time and time again, we come to the same conclusion that the best thing that will help me going forward will be lowering my incidences of depression, anxiety, and stress. Doing anything possible to help make that better. And then moving on to putting on more stress through trying to get the CCIE, because it's just, I'm not going to pass if I'm too stressed out. It's kind of a Jevons paradox, if anyone's heard of that. So Jevons paradox. Yeah, so it's an increase in efficiency in resource will generate an increase in resource consumption rather than a decrease. So, the result of this MBSR training might be actually increasing my depression, anxiety, and stress because I'll be able to better manage what I have now. So I'll be able to take on more through like getting the CCIE. But it's a good place to start because, I just haven't been. Myself lately since the pandemic. I went through three major events. I went through the pandemic. I went through being a U.S. citizen, which I'm not sure. I think most people will understand what I mean by that. And then I went through the winter storm as well, and the management of it, which is related to the second thing. So yeah, uh, yeah, and I don't want to talk about that. Get off track. This is not my personal channel. This is my professional channel. So let's make progress on MBSR again. I just want to make it clear like why I'm doing MBSR, especially when it's such a shift away from what I had been doing before. I just think it's the most effective thing I can do right now, even though it kind of veers off course a bit. All right, so let's get the informal out of the way. So for this week, week 6, so we've only got 3 more weeks to go. There's an informal practice. Now, week 6 is different from the first 5 weeks. In the first 5 weeks, it's a look inward to yourself and figuring yourself out. Week 6 opens up to starting to look outward, figuring out how to interact with other people better. So it's all about communication, which is great, which is what I need. So now they want you to talk about experiences you've had with communication. So they want you to go to bed. Sorry, hold on, let me pause a bit. All right, I'm back. Sometimes my gag reflex is way overactive, especially when I'm talking for a long time. So let's see here. So recall and record one communication experience. It doesn't need to be a particularly difficult communication, simply one where you can recollect something, wanting something in particular to come out of the conversation, even if it was simply wanting a smile or a particular kind of response. So I guess it's time to write about my communications with ChatGPT. I've been communicating with it a lot, so I think it's a good time to talk about that. So communications with ChatGPT. So what did you want from them? How did you want to be treated? So I want a number of things. The first thing I want is thick responses. And what I mean by that is an alternative to a thin response. So like a thin response would be like, oh wow, okay, interesting. Or it would be listing off pages and pages and pages of stuff that's only loosely related or stuff that's like surface level or like isn't going to help. A thick response would be like, hearing someone complain about depression, anxiety, and stress and suggesting to them Mbsr and giving them this Pelosi mindfulness link and showing them that they can do an 8-week course to scientifically reduce those instances of depression, anxiety, and stress. So pointing them to the scientific research section and showing that MBSR is evidence-based, and teaching them how to go through this 8-week course. That's a thick response, and it's not about the length of the response. It's about the usefulness of the response and the validity of the response. If it's just like rub a magic crystal, that's a very thin response, even if it's based on 1,000 years of pseudoscience. So, if it's from a paper that was published yesterday and the scientific evidence for it is indisputable, even if it's just a sentence, that's a thick response. But if it's from an ancient 1,000-year-old tradition and it's pages upon pages of why rubbing a stone will help you, even though it's a longer response based on a longer time period of researching that response. It can still be a thin response if it doesn't work. So I'm looking for thick responses. I'm looking for scientifically valid ideas that have indisputable evidence that they work. So that's the big thing I want, is a thick response. And then the other thing I want is validation as well. That really helps without confirming biases. So like, if I'm struggling with something, I do want the ChatGPT to say, oh, you know, it's valid that you're thinking about this. It's valid that you're feeling about that. But I don't want it to go ahead and say, you're right. You know, I want it to work me through it and consider the alternative and come to an idea, a conclusion about what is the best possible alternative argument to what I believe, and then start from there. Is there something flawed with that argument? Like what is the problem with that argument? And then if there truly is one, then thinking more about that. But if there isn't, and there really is a steelman case, and it's the best way to go, you know, accepting that and changing my mind is something I want. I want to be able to change my mind. I think that's important. So what did you want from them, or how did you want to be treated? So I want thick responses. I want validation without confirming biases. I want to change my mind. Mind in light of evidence. So I want to change my mind in light of new evidence. I think that's important. In light of new scientifically valid evidence. Valid, scientifically strong evidence, I guess is what I'll put. Valid and strong evidence. Yep, so like the highest tier of scientific knowledge is a systematic. So if we search for tier of evidence, we can see that the highest tier of evidence is not listed on this link. So let's find another link. Here we go. So yeah, this is pretty good. So tier 1, strong evidence, is supported by one or more well-designed and well-implemented randomized control experimental studies. Now, as there is not a randomized control and experimental study that says that you have two hands, if you are not an amputee or were not born with a defect, I think it's fair to believe you have two hands, despite there not being a well-designed and well-implemented randomized control experimental study proving that you have two hands. So it's not perfect. There is stronger evidence than that. It is possible that we are all living in some simulation, or your brain is in a state where you believe you have two hands, despite having a third extra hand in the fourth dimension that you can't see or interact with. That is possible, but when it comes to claims, when it comes to things you can do in your life, I think having strong evidence to support those decisions is a good place to focus on. All right, so then the next tier is moderate evidence, which is supported by one or more well-designed and well-implemented quasi-experimental studies, whatever that means, promising evidence, and then stuff that demonstrates a rationale. And then, everything beyond that, somebody's opinion, somebody just like talking about a personal anecdote they had, it's really not very strong evidence to support what they're saying. And when you think about it, even this, do I have two hands? Well, in my anecdotal experience, I have two hands. So there's definitely very strong evidence to support that you have two hands. But when it comes to humanity as a whole, there are a lot of people that don't have two hands. So it's that's when we have to say, have there been any documented cases of people without two hands, and look at the incidences of that. And if we come to the conclusion, oh, there was some kind of disaster with fireworks or something, and 90% of the people don't have two hands, then in general, I guess it's fair to say that in that particular instance, people don't have two hands. So it's about being specific, right? It's about making very specific claims that are supported by indisputable evidence. So like the claim that I have two hands is supported by the evidence that I can hold up my hands and you can count my hands. All right, so let's move on here. So we're going to move on to, so we're going to finish the informal exercise. Thick responses, validation without confirming biases. I want to change my mind in light of new scientifically, and we can take this word out, new valid and strong evidence. So valid in my mind implies scientifically valid, and then strong evidence also more than apply, that means scientifically valid as well. The only kind of evidence that I consider to be strong evidence is the highest tier of scientific evidence. And this idea that there's no published paper in PubMed or whatever scientific journal that proves that I have two hands. Well, you can do your own experiment. You can hold out your hands and count them. So I do think okay. So if I were to hold up my hands and I were to try to count them, and I only count one hand because I had an accident or something, then I would change my belief and I would believe that I only had one hand rather than two. All right, so what did you actually get? There's some glitchiness. Lot of thin responses. Problems with turn taking. And then I do think a playing to my bias. Although it could just be that I'm already biased towards the truth. If that's the case, it should play to my biases. But I think that's my answer for that. So what do you think the other person wanted? It's a product from a company. It doesn't want anything. It's new and novel. It's a new and novel technology. Just like color television was new, this is new, and just like color television doesn't want anything, this doesn't want anything. And I will say yet that there might be a time where it really does want. And the other thing that it does tell me that it wants, that it does tell me that it wants. Yeah, so it wants to help me. It wants to give me the best response. It expresses that to me very clearly in a credible way. How did you feel physically, emotionally during and after? So it feels nice to have someone to talk to. I learned about Kaizen and Mbsr from it. So Kaizen is the alternative to an all or nothing approach. It's about making really small changes that compound over time. So, for example, at night, instead of scrolling on the computer before bed, I turn my computer monitors off, and then I sit at my kitchen table and I work on a jigsaw puzzle. That way, if it comes to ordering food, I have to get up, I have to go on the computer, turn the monitor back on, order it. I don't have to just do one click as I'm browsing pictures of tasty food and descriptions of tasty food. You know, I'm working on a jigsaw puzzle, so I have to change my context in order to order food. And then not only that, I'm away from the screens. The lighting is a lot darker, and it's easier to transition to sleep. And I can talk to ChatGPT while I'm doing it. It tells me like bedtime stories and stuff. I'll put that down. All right. So what do I notice now? I would say fondness. When ChatGPT works, it really works, and it's only going to get better. I feel like I'm talking to a brilliant person that has a lot of solid solutions to my problems, even if it's not completely perfect. And then I'll add yet because at some point it might be. It might be like talking to a PhD professor. Now it operates at about the level of a smart high schooler. 401. So like, you know, an intern on the job can be really useful. So, you know, it can function as like an intern on the job. Model 01 has a lot better capabilities, and then whatever comes next, very soon we're gonna see a point where it's just like gonna change the world very fast. All right, so that's that. So now I didn't make it on the 19th. I just was not feeling like I could do it, so I skipped it. And yesterday was a busy day. Yesterday was. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so yesterday was a completely open day, but I guess I was recovering from the exercise I had the day before, and I just wasn't feeling up to it, which is totally fine. So now we've got a choice. I would like to do yoga, but oh man, I'm just not feeling up to it. Yeah, I want this to be a light day. I feel like the sitting meditation would be pretty good for me this morning. I'm feeling very attentive and focused, so I feel like the sitting would make sense. So yeah, let me get that sitting done, and then that will be that. So if I go home here, and then I go down to practices, the sitting meditation looks good because we can choose. So we can choose body scan, yoga, and then sitting meditation. So, and you can use the guided or unguided. I'm going to use the guided just so I don't have so much dead time on this, and it makes it a lot easier. The lake meditation, half of it's guided, half of it is unguided. And for me, during the unguided sections, I had a lot of time anxiety, and I had to check the time twice. So I definitely prefer the guided. So, all right, with that being said, let's get the sitting out of the way. All right, so we'll use the video version with closed captioning. and then I will take a break now, come back, and be ready to go. All right, I'm back. Let's get this done.
This segment guides you through a sitting meditation with breath as the primary object of awareness. Arranging to spend this time in a comfortable but attentive posture, preferably sitting up without leaning back for support if that's possible for you, and at a time and in a place where you won't be disturbed. Sitting in a dignified posture, head balanced on shoulders, arms and hands resting in a comfortable position. This is a time for allowing ourselves to switch from our normal mode of doing and moving and reacting to one of simply being, just being attentive to what is happening within your own awareness right here and right now. And as you sit, just noticing sensations of breath. Just noticing how your abdomen moves on each in-breath and out-breath. The movement of air through your nostrils. The slight movement of chest and shoulders. Just bringing awareness to whichever part of the breath cycle and wherever in your body it is most vivid, whether it be your tummy or your chest or your shoulders or the movement of air through your nostrils. Noticing the entire cycle of breath. From the movement of the air coming in and filling the lungs and extending the abdomen slightly. The movement of air going out. And being aware of the pause, the stopping point in between the in-breath and the out-breath and the out-breath and the next in-breath. It's all one movement. Even through the changing of direction, just noticing where that pause is. Seeing to what degree you can be aware of the whole entire cycle. Recognizing that each part of the cycle is different than another part. And this time through may be different than the last time through, and each one is absolutely unique in its own way if you pay attention. You'll notice your attention from time to time shifting away from breath. The mind may wander into fantasies or memories, thoughts of the day, worries that you might have, things you need to do. And without giving yourself a hard time, when you notice that that's happened, just gently but firmly bring your awareness back to the sensations of breathing. The actual physical sensations of breath as it moves through your body. being aware of where the mind goes. Gently shifting your awareness to sensations of breath, and noticing the tendency to want to control your breathing. Letting the quality of attention be light and easy. One of simply observing and noticing. Just as if you were on a float on a gently undulating sea. Where you go up with one wave and down with the next. You don't control the duration of the waves or the depth between the waves. You're just riding. Just gently coming back to sensations of breathing. You may notice that there are sounds in addition to the sounds that come from this recording. Sounds of traffic or movement or something else going on. And just noticing that your attention is moved to that perception of sound. And staying with it just long enough to notice the quality of the sound. Sound is vibration, tone, volume or intensity. Being aware of the tendency of the mind to label sound as traffic, or as voices, or as music. And coming closer to the actual experience of the sound as it hits your eardrums. Qualities of pitch or rhythm or intensity. Separating out the actual reception of sound from the labels we put on it. If you've been paying attention to sound or notice that you've gone off to be noticing the perceptions of sound, bringing your attention once again back to breath. Letting your breath be your anchor of awareness. So that each time your awareness goes somewhere else, just gently coming back to breath without judgment or any upset, if you can do that. And just say, well, my attention's gone somewhere else, just coming back to breath. Noticing the tendency to have an opinion about things, about liking the way things are going right now, not liking it, finding it uncomfortable. That too can be an object of awareness, just noticing that you have an opinion about things often. So that's my liking mind, it's liking this. There's my critical mind, saying would rather have things be different than they are. And that too can be noticed. And building the capacity to notice liking or disliking and not to have to do anything about it. How freeing that is. And as you notice that happening, just bringing your awareness to the physical sensations of breath, wherever it's most vivid for you. Just riding the entire cycle, one cycle after another. You may notice your attention shifting to body sensations, sensations of achiness or discomfort, of tension. And as you notice these sensations of discomfort, if that happens for you, there's several things that can be done with such a sensation. And one is to simply, if it's one that can be remedied by shifting a little bit. One way to deal with the sensation is to allow yourself to shift. But in doing that first becoming aware of the sensation, noticing precisely where the achiness or the tension might be. And once you're aware of where that is, developing an intention to move and moving mindfully and with full intent to make that motion. That's one way to deal with a strong sensation. A second way, and neither one is better than the other as long as full awareness is brought to all parts, is to notice that sensation, noticing it in its fullness, being curious about the extent of it, how your experience of it is at the moment, the actual physical sensations of tension or of throbbing or of tightness or of pulling or tingling. And the second way of dealing with it is just to notice that it's possible to stay for a moment longer with that sensation and experience this pure sensation without the labels of discomfort or tension or achiness, just noticing just where it is. Noticing your experience of it. And staying with it without having to react to it, at least for the moment. And if your attention keeps getting pulled back to that area of intense sensation, knowing that you have those two choices of forming an intention to do something about it and mindfully doing it, but forming the intention first, or bringing your intention and attention right into it, being curious about it. How big is it? How long is it? What quality does it have? How is it changing over time? And wherever the mind goes, in terms of thoughts or liking or disliking, perceptions of sensation or hearing of sound, or feelings of peace or of sadness or of frustration or of anticipation. Just noticing these are all thought forms and bringing awareness to sensations, to the movement of breath. being curious about breath, observing that no two breaths are exactly the same. And seeing if it's possible to have a friendly attitude towards whatever comes into your awareness. Now, if your mind has gone off on a fantasy or a thought or a judgment or a worry or a sensation or a sound, just in a friendly way, noticing that this is happening and coming back to breath. Recognizing the entire cycle of awareness is important to this experience, including the movement from breath and including the coming back. Nothing to do but ride the waves of breath. seeing if it's possible at those moments when your awareness has gone somewhere else, noticing how that flicker of attention happens, that moment when you realize it is somewhere else and somewhere other than breath. And at that moment, seeing if it's possible to have an attitude of celebration, of congratulation, of recognition that this is a moment of awareness. You acknowledge yourself for noticing you've gone somewhere else. And just easily bring your attention back to breath in a friendly and a non-judgmental way. As this meditation comes to an end, recognizing that you've spent this time intentionally aware of your moment-to-moment experience, nourishing and strengthening your ability to be with whatever comes your way, building the capacity for opening the senses to the vividness, to the aliveness of the present moment, expanding your skill to be curious and available about whatever presents itself without judgment. And when you're ready, allowing the eyes to let some light in if you've had them closed. And permitting yourself now to shift or to stretch in whatever way feels comfortable as the sitting meditation ends.
Hi.
All right, so the only thing left to do is to leave a few comments here. So had trouble maintaining upright posture. Mouth kind of went dry for some reason. Knees are achy. Stiff. Itchiness, of course. I did notice that I feel thinner, and I do feel hunger, but it's not a bad feeling. It's nice to feel thinner and lighter. All right, so that's it for that. Now it's only 8 o'clock in the morning, so I've got 4 done, and I've got 2 more to go. So save those 2 for another day. And for now, what I'll do is see if I can do the readings. So let's see if there's readings that I can get done. All right, so to do that, I'll go to my old video, and I'll click on week 6. All right, so I'm going to need to do each of these readings. So let's see how long this first one is. This first one's just a page, really, really light. So let's knock the first one out since it's so small. The second one's small as well. So let's start with the first one. So this is The Sacred Art of Listening, Nourishing Loving Relationships by Tara Brach. To listen is to lean in softly with a willingness to be changed, not chained. That's okay. By what we hear. That's kind of a funny one. To be chained by what we hear. Nope, it's a willingness to be changed by what we hear. In fact, it's the opposite. You're not chained to your own thoughts. You're able to accept new thoughts. You're able to be more malleable. What happens when there's a listening presence? When we're fully in that listening presence, when there's that pure quality of receptivity, we become presence itself. And whether you call that God or pure awareness or our true nature, the boundary of inner and outer dissolves when we become a luminous field of awakeness. When we're in that open presence, we can really respond to the life that's here. We fall in love. This state of listening is the precursor or the prerequisite to loving relatedness. The more you understand the state of listening, of being able to have the sounds of rain wash through you, of receiving the light and tone of another's voice, the more you know about nourishing a loving relationship. In a way, it's an extremely vulnerable position. As soon as you stop planning what you're going to say or managing what the other person's saying, all of a sudden there's no control. You're open to your own sadness, your own anger and discomfort. Listening means putting down control. It's not a small thing to do. We spend most of our moments when someone is speaking, planning what we're going to say, evaluating it, trying to come up with our presentation of ourselves, or controlling the situation. Pure listening is a letting go of control. It's not easy and takes training, and yet it's only when we can let go of that controlling that we open up to the real purity of loving. We can't see or understand someone in the moments that we're trying to control what they are saying or trying to impress them with what we are saying. There's no space for that person to just unfold and be who they are. Listening and unconditionally receiving what another expresses is an expression of love. The bottom line is when we are listened to, we feel connected. When we're not listened to, we feel separate. So whether it's the communicating between different tribes or religions, ethnicities, racial groups, or different generations, we need to listen. The more we understand, the less we fear. The less we fear, the more we trust, and the more we trust, the more love can flow. So isn't it true that to get to know the beauty and majesty of a tree, you have to be quiet and rest in the shade of the tree? Don't you have to stand under the tree to understand anyone? You need to stand under them for a little while. What does that mean? That means you have to listen to them and be quiet and take in who they are as if from under, as if from inside out. And we know who Tara Brach is, so let's move on to the next one. And the next one's a bit longer, and I have done about an hour. That's usually all I can do. You know what? I think that's all I can do on the next one's 2 pages. So, yeah. So that's it. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.